Hello, and welcome. This is going to be a brief video going over some of the things that we did on the last day of class before we closed for the March break. So hopefully most of you don't need to go over this video in much detail. You're just gonna, if you have any particular questions about anything that we did, you can watch just that particular question. But for the most part, hopefully you're starting with the next video. And even then, like I mentioned in the post, it's not necessary that you're watching the entire video. Hopefully you've already gone over some of the lessons and using the answer key. This is just if you had any particular questions or were a bit iffy about certain concepts. These lessons were just for that, and I decided to make all of them anyway, so that if you had any questions about anything else, you can take a look. So this was the initial operations with polynomials, expanding and simplifying polynomials and binomials. So here, hopefully we'll see that we are going to be using the distributive property here. So whenever we have something outside a bracket, the thing has to be distributed into each term in the bracket. So this is one term, this is another term. So 2 times negative 3x is negative 6x. 2 times positive 6 is positive 12. And the minus 7 just stays out of the bracket. So what we are left with is negative 6x plus 5. The same idea here. We have something outside of a bracket, so we're going to distribute it. And we'll remember when we're multiplying, which is as we're doing here, we're just going to multiply the numbers and multiply any variables that are present. So here is just a 2, so we're just multiplying 2 and 4, 2 and 3, 2 and 1. And then here, note that this negative belongs to the 2x. So what we're doing is we're taking negative 2x and we're multiplying it into these two terms. So here you have negative 2x times 8x, which is negative 16x squared. This is what I mean by multiplying the variables, right? X times x gives you an x squared, or x to the power of 2. And then minus 2x times negative 3 gives us a positive 6x. So again, we're going to combine like terms here. And when we're adding and subtracting, so what we're doing is 8x squared minus 16x squared. We're going to add or subtract as necessary the numbers. So 8 minus 16 is negative 8. And we're going to keep the variable the same. So x squared is just the variable that goes along with this addition. So hopefully we're okay with the difference between multiplication and addition. We're going to add the other two terms here, plus 12x plus 2. Again, this is just multiplication of variables alone. Exponent rules, x to the power of 5 times x to the power of 7 is x to the power of 5 plus 7, which is x to the power of 12. Again, multiplication, 7 times negative 3 times 5, I believe, is negative 105. X to the power of 2 plus 4 plus 1 would give us 7. No invisible ones. They come up everywhere. They'll be incredibly useful in what we need to do. Okay, so this is what we can do first is we can cross cancel actually the 2 and the 4 because everything's being multiplied here. Again, this is something that you should be taking care of. You can only cross cancel stuff if it's all just one term. And we can see here that all of this is one term because there's no adding or subtracting signs, right? So we can cross cancel within a term, but not if there are two terms in the numerator. For example, if this was 4y cubed plus 3y squared divided by 2y cubed, we would not be able to cross cancel the 4 and the 2 because there's two different terms in the numerator. Right, so just key there, don't do that. But that doesn't really apply to this question because it's only one term, so we can cross cancel. And we can also cross cancel the y to the power of 3 and the y to the power of 3. Or if you don't want to cross cancel, we know that 2 times 3 is 6. We do y to the power of 3 plus 2 minus 3 because that's a division. And so we have 6y to the power of 2, and that's the answer. We're not doing algebra tau, so we'll skip right ahead on to expanding binomials. And hopefully we'll recall that expanding binomials, we have to use what is called the crab claw rule, or some of you may have learned FOIL. I'm not a fan of FOIL, I prefer the crab claw. Basically what that means is if you have two brackets that are multiplied into each other, both terms in the first bracket get multiplied by both the terms in the second bracket. For example, so we have two terms here, we have two terms here, so we should be doing 4 different multiplications. Always keep that in mind. 4 by doing 2 times 2 is 4 different multiplications. So what are the multiplications that we are going to be doing? We're going to be doing x times 3x, x times 2, negative 1 times 3x, negative 1 times 2. Right? So x times 3x is 3x squared. X times 2 is positive 2x. Negative 1 times 3x is negative 3x. Negative 1 times 2 is negative 2. Always remember, two terms inside one bracket multiplied by 2 terms inside the other bracket. You have to do 2 times 2. You see there's 4 different multiplication steps that I'm doing. And here we can simplify the like terms here to give me negative x minus 2. And that would be my final answer. Again, we're going to go over this and more. We're going to be doing all the practice questions. So hopefully we will recall what we did in class. So again, d times d is d squared. D times 2 is plus 2d. Negative 6 times d is negative 6d. Negative 6 times 2 is negative 12. Collect like terms, minus 4d minus 12. Same idea. We're still doing there's 2 terms in one bracket, 2 terms in the other bracket. We have to do 4 different multiplications and just collect like terms. You just have to be careful while doing this one because there's 2 different variables. 3a times 2a is 6a to the power of 2. 3a times negative 7b minus 21ab. Then this multiplication plus 8ab. And we're doing this multiplication, minus 28b to the power of 2. So we get 6a squared, collect the like terms. What is that, minus 13ab? Minus 28b squared. This is a interesting case. Be very careful about this one. We have x plus 3 times itself. That is what x plus 3 squared is. Please do not distribute. You cannot just take the square and put it into the 2, put it for the x and put it for the 3. This is not equal to x squared plus 3 squared. This is completely wrong. You cannot do that. Because x plus 3 the whole squared is, when I say the whole squared because the square is outside the bracket. And also important to remember that whenever something is squared, you multiply it by itself. So we're doing x plus 3 times itself with the brackets, because the square applies to the brackets, and so we get this kind of situation where we have, again, x squared plus 3x plus 3x plus 9. X squared plus 6x plus 9. So there you have it. That's the expanded form, and hopefully we can see here that if I have x plus 5 the whole squared, I will get x squared, which is the first term squared, plus twice the first term times the second term. So I'm going to do 2 times x times 5, which gives me 10x, plus the second term squared. 5 squared is 25. And this is a rule that you're learning. A plus b, if I do that the whole square, just like it is here, I get a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. The 2ab comes from the fact that I have to do, as we'll see here, if this is like x is the a and 3 is the b, I do a times b once, and I do a times b again. So I'm doing a times b 2 different times, I'm adding them together. So that's where this 2ab comes from. And then you still have, the a times a and the b times b that you're doing. So that's where the a squared and the b squared come from. So this is just a handy trick to remember so that you're not writing this out. If you remember this kind of theorem, you can do that quite quicker. Same way here, I'm going to use the theorem that I learned. So if I have something the whole squared, the first thing is the first term squared, which is 4x squared. Then the first 2 times the first term times the second term. So that's 2 times 2x times negative 5, which is negative 20x. And then negative 5 squared is positive 25. And if you do this the long way as in if you actually were to write it out, and then do 2x times 2x is 4x squared. 2x times negative 5 is negative 10x. Another negative 10x and positive 25. And if you do negative 10 minus 10, you'll see that we get negative 20 over here. So the same idea. So that's where this comes in handy. Here we have 3 different multiplications. So again, there was a bit of confusion during class about this. So just to be clear about what we're doing here, we are going to do this in any different order. So the important thing to remember here is this 5 does not go into all these things. We're not supposed to do the 5 multiplied by everything. What we have is we have 3 different things that are being multiplied together. We have the 5, we have this term, well, as in the term in the bracket, and we have this term in bracket. So you can do this in any order. You can multiply these 2 first and then multiply it by 5. You can multiply these 2 first and then multip it by this. You can actually even multiply the 5 and the x minus 3 first and then multiply by 2x plus 1. That's up to you. The easiest way is to actually, I say the easiest way. You could do it any different way you want, but just remember that you're multiplying the 5 only into one bracket whenever you are doing it. So that's important. As long as you're remembering that, that's fine. But what we're going to do is first we're going to leave the 5 outside, and we're just going to multiply these 2 brackets together. So I have 2x times x is 2x squared, 2x times negative 3, negative 6x, plus x minus 3. I still keep the 5 outside all of this. 2x squared minus 5x minus 3. And then I'm going to multiply the 5 inside all these 3 terms using the distributive property. 10x squared minus 25x minus 15 is my final answer. All right, the same idea here. We're gonna be very careful. We have 6x is 1, then we have 2x plus 1, and then we have another 2x plus 1. Again, you could do the 6x times this first and then multiply it by this 2x plus 1. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna multiply the brackets first, and then I'm gonna get to the term outside the brackets. So in order to do that, I'm going to put the 6x, and I'm going to use my shortcut for multiplying 2x plus 1. I know that a plus b, whenever I see 2 brackets and a whole squared, I do the first term squared plus 2 times the first term times the second term plus the second term squared. A squared plus 2ab plus b squared. Again, if you say that in your head like 5 times, you'll memorize it. A squared plus 2ab plus b squared. So a squared, 4x squared, plus 2 times 2x times 1. 4x, b squared, second term squared, which is just 1 squared is 1. And now I'm going to multiply the 6x into each term in the bracket. So that gives me 24x to the power of 3, 24x to the power of 2, and a 6x in the end. Okay, this is quite complicated. So again, first we're going to deal with the bracket here, because I have a squared exponents first if you are following the BEDMAS rules. So the first thing to do here would be to deal with the exponents. Again, you might say, okay, what about the bracket? Inside the bracket, I have an x plus 2. I can't really do anything about that. Inside this bracket, I have a 2x minus 4. Also, nothing I can simplify there. So there's nothing to simplify inside the bracket. So I'm just going to start with the exponents. Again, a squared plus 2 times a times b plus b squared. I'm still going to write out all the rest of it. Now I do multiplication. Multiplication inside the brackets goes first, distributive property, 2x squared plus 8x plus 8. I still have negative 3x times 2x is negative 6x squared plus 24, plus 12. I can't multiply all of a sudden. X. And I'm going to just add all the like terms, and that should hopefully give us this answer. So again, hopefully we are clear, and we remember this from our class that we did on Friday. If you have any questions, obviously feel free to leave a comment below, and hopefully we are getting started on the other videos that we have to watch to complete this unit while we are still, hopefully safe at home. So, peace. I will talk to everybody soon, later, whenever you watch the next video.